So the title that was put to this lecture was Dzogchen, the Path of Self-Liberation. Then what does this mean? Normally we would think that self-liberation means that we are liberated, that the self is liberated. But actually this is not the meaning. Of course, it's a path for attaining liberation, oneself, from samsara, from suffering, from delusion, which is the source of suffering. But actually self-liberation means spontaneous liberation. So there are different paths in Buddhism, in Tibetan Buddhism. Some of them are based on the principle of renunciation. And for example, the Theravada, the Mahayana, are based in different ways on renunciation. Then there is a path of transformation, transforming impure vision into pure vision, and that is Tantra, or in Buddhism is Vajrayana. Then finally we have the path of spontaneous liberation. This is the meaning of self-liberation. In order to understand self-liberation, it's very important to grasp a basic principle of Buddhism in general, which is the distinction between Sanskrita and Asanskrita, Sankata and Asankata, Duche and Dumache. And Sanskrita is all that is created, produced, fabricated, induced, conditioned, compounded, intentional, contrived. So it's a single word, but actually the concept englobes many meanings. It's a polysemic concept. Therefore, it's not very easy to translate these words. Yeah. So Sanskrita is related to samsara. Sanskrita, by definition, is impermanent. Whatever is Sanskrita is impermanent and subject to suffering. This is an essential condition. So, for there to be a true liberation, it has to be a Sanskrita. But what does it mean? That means that if liberation were based on the principle of renunciation, then I have to renounce something in order to attain something else. That something else would be Sanskrita, it would be produced, created, etc. If I have to transform the impure vision into pure vision, as in Tantra, that means that I am transforming something into something else, and that into which I am transforming my vision is also created by the transformation. So that means that it will be impermanent and subject to suffering. The principle of Dzogchen is the principle of spontaneous liberation, because only when liberation is spontaneous, it can be a Sanskrita, not produced, not created, not fabricated, not induced, not intentional, not contrived, not conditioned, and not compounded. But does that mean that the other Buddhist paths are totally useless? No.
Could you move a little bit with,
No, it doesn't mean that the other paths are useless. It means that when the other paths work, they work on the basis of the principle of spontaneous liberation. But that's not their principle. So the Buddha Shakyamuni, he had to go through many, many hardships, and it was a very long path. And at the end, when he sat under the Bodhi tree, he entered into a very deep samadhi after having been tempted by the demons attacking him and the apsaras seducing him. And then suddenly the morning star arose, and he saw it and he was awake. That means that was not produced. And in Tantra also, when we do produce a lot of different experiences of pleasure, clarity, and emptiness in order to recognize the awareness in which they manifest. It's only when we treat that awareness as though someone was walking and I put my foot and he tripped and collapsed. It is then that some rigpa, which is the awareness that grasps the true condition of reality, can manifest. And then that's not produced, that's not created. But Dzogchen is based on that very principle. It's not that by applying other principles, then we will come to that. But it is that the very principle of Dzogchen is self-liberation. In order to understand this, we have to discuss the base, path, and fruit of Dzogchen. So, what does base, path, and fruit mean? Base means normally all Buddhist vehicles have a base, a path, and a fruit. But the base is understood differently in different vehicles. So, in Dzogchen, the base is the true condition. In Dzogchen, the base is the Buddha nature. Not the Buddha nature as a seed that has to become a tree and bear a fruit so that finally we can have the fruit, because then the fruit will be produced, created, it will be Samskrita, and it would not be true liberation. So, here there are two analogies which we find in a Mahayana text, which is the Ratnatra Vibhaga or Uttara Tantra by Maitreya and Asanga. One of them is that of the seed that produces a tree, and the tree bears a fruit. And the other one is that of the sun, which is always shining, and then the clouds cover it. And it can be no longer seen, but it's already there, fully manifest. So the base is the Buddha nature, totally enlightened, but it could be concealed by occasional obstructions, which are like the clouds. Therefore, it is very often said that even though there is only one base, there are two paths on that base. One is the path of discovering the true condition of the base, which is nirvana, and the other one is the path of concealing the true condition of the base, and that is samsara. Of course, samsara is totally illusory. It's a whole path of illusion that doesn't have any real existence, any true existence. But still, there is this possibility, and if we were not in samsara, at least illusorily, we would not need a path to become enlightened, to become awake, to awaken. So, we want to explain the base, path, and fruit in terms of the three kayas. We could explain it in terms of a single kaya, Buddhahood, the kaya of Buddhahood, in terms of two kayas, Dharmakaya and Rupakaya. We could, in terms of three, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. In terms of four, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, and Swabhavikaya. In terms of five, if we add the Vajrakaya, and then it would correspond to the five families, or five Buddha families, and five wisdom. And we could even divide it even more. But here we are going to divide it into three because this is the most common explanation. The Buddhahood has three kayas, which are Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. So, when we say the base has three aspects, these three aspects are essence, nature, and energy. Essence is emptiness. Nature is clarity or luminosity, and energy is the unobstructedness that allows our true condition to manifest all the time new appearances. However, because of this unobstructedness, the base is always manifesting. So we could say also that it's uninterrupted manifestation. The Tibetan word for unobstructedness and uninterruptedness is the same. So there is no contradiction. It's just two ways of understanding, explaining the same term. So let's explain first, to begin with, the essence. We said the essence is emptiness, but what does it mean? Okay, if you could open that. A mirror is empty in that it doesn't contain a fixed form. It's empty, it doesn't have any form. This is the first sense of emptiness in this example. So, our true condition is compared with a mirror. It's likened to a mirror. But there is a defect in this explanation, in this analogy, which is that a mirror requires something external for it to reflect. There is nothing external to our true condition. There is absolutely nothing external to our true condition. What does it mean? It means that our true condition is empty of substances other than itself. That's another sense of emptiness. And then, still, we have a third sense of emptiness, which is that whatever manifests in the mirror is empty of self-existence, of substance. It cannot manifest without the mirror. So it's depending on something else in order to manifest. And it depends on the contrast with all other phenomena to be distinct, to be absolutely differentiable from other phenomena. Therefore, it's totally dependent, and this is the meaning of emptiness in Mahayana Buddhism, especially in Prajnaparamita or Madhyamaka philosophy. Dependent arising. Whatever is dependently arisen is empty, because it depends on something else to be. It doesn't have substance, which means self-existent, not to depend on anything else, to be independently existent, to be in itself existent. So, this is essentially the meaning of essence or mowo. The mirror is empty because it doesn't have any fixed image, and because of that, it can fill itself with any image. But that image will not obstruct the manifestation of the following image, and that has to do with energy. For example, now many of you are reflected here, but if I put my hand in between, your image will not obstruct the manifestation of the reflection of my hand. We could use also the example of a computer, of a laptop with a LED or LCD screen, and then we wouldn't have the problem that it requires an external reality because all the images come from the computer. But then it would depend on a system and a program, and therefore everything would be dependent, everything would be Sanskrita, and then that would be a problem. I mean that it would fail because of that, just as the mirror fails because it requires something external to itself or different from itself. So, the true condition of reality cannot be understood in terms of concept. explained in terms of words or illustrated with images or examples. But still, we have to explain, because otherwise we don't get to a path whereby we can attain liberation from samsara. So, the following element is nature or bzhin. Essence is the Dharmakaya as the base. The Dharmakaya is emptiness, which is the true condition of reality. So, essence is the Dharmakaya. The second element is nature, and nature, in terms of the example of the mirror, would be the mirror's brightness. And in terms of the example of the computer, of the laptop, it would be the luminosity that is behind the screen that allows the images to manifest. If we have something that is empty of any pre-established form, but doesn't have the capacity to manifest forms, then no form will manifest. For example, on the blackboard, for something to manifest, you have to write on it. I mean, it will not naturally manifest anything. So this is why the second element is clarity. And this is the Sambhogakaya as the base. The Sambhogakaya aspect of the base. Because it has the Trikaya, because it is Buddhahood in actuality. It's not Buddhahood in potency, that then something has to happen for it to become Buddhahood in act. No, it is Buddhahood in act already, but it is concealed. That is the only problem. So it has to be unconcealed. It has to be revealed, and then it will manifest as the path and finally as the fruit. So the third element is energy. And energy, what does energy mean? We said that energy is the unobstructedness that allows images to appear in the mirror. It's always ready to manifest and doesn't obstruct any manifestation. If you are reflected here and I put my hand, your reflection doesn't obstruct. So energy has to do with manifestation. It is the unobstructedness that allows anything to manifest and everything to manifest. And because of that, it is uninterrupted manifestation also. So, this process of manifestation is the Nirmanakaya as the base. The manifestation of phenomena in the base by virtue of the base. Of course, these phenomena are totally empty. Why? As we said before, because they depend on something else to manifest. So, the mirror is empty in the sense of not bearing any pre-established form, and on the other hand, it is empty in the sense that there is nothing external to it, and that's why the example of the mirror fails. But at the same time, energy, all the phenomena of energy which are constantly manifesting and which are not obstructed by the previous phenomena, they are, of course, empty of self-existence because they depend on something else to manifest. But in Tibetan, energy is tukje. And tukje, tuk means heart, and je means soft and noble. Tukje is compassion, karuna. So, why does it call compassion this uninterrupted manifestation? This seems crazy. Trikaya of Buddha is the highest type of realized beings of that which the Mahayana calls the Hinayana. There are two types. One of them goes to the woods or the mountains and practices in loneliness, and when he gets realized, he dies after 4 days. Why? Because his realization is partial. It involves a partial emptiness and no compassion. The true condition of reality, according to the Mahayana, is the indivisibility of emptiness and compassion. So, a Buddha, instead, he continues to be alive because of compassion. Non-referential compassion, he does not perceive any beings suffering or any suffering to be healed in those beings, but there is a non-referential compassion, a compassion that has no object, but that works for the benefit of all beings in a natural and a spontaneous manner. So this is because the base is the Buddha nature, is fully enlightened Buddhahood, even though we are not aware of it. So long as we continue to be alive, this is happening because of the compassion of the Buddha nature, which is our true condition. Yet we feel thrown in the world, as Heidegger, for example, said in Being and Time, the state of thrownness, the state of feeling that we are thrown in the world, and then experience is something that is imposed on us. And when it's nice, we accept it and enjoy it. And when we feel that it's not nice, we reject it and suffer. And then we ask, why are we here? The child asks the mother, why did you bring me to this world? I didn't ask you to conceive me. And then we are in trouble. Okay, so energy is the uninterrupted manifestation that happens because of the compassion inherent in Buddhahood, even if we are not fully enlightened Buddhas, in the sense that all of